The box was already packed when I got there. That's what I remember most clearly. Not the firing itself, not Derek's face, but the fact that he'd touched my things. My grandmother's photo, my coffee mug with the chipped handle, the little ceramic frog Sarah gave me on my 3rd anniversary at Brightline. All of it, sitting in a cardboard box on my desk like I was already gone. It was 7:05 in the morning, 2 minutes before my shift officially started. I hadn't even taken off my jacket. Derek stood in the doorway of my cubicle with his arms crossed. He wore that smile, the one he used when he was about to deliver bad news he was enjoying. I'd seen it before, in meetings, when he told a client their budget was being cut. I'd just never seen it pointed at me. "Maya," he said, like he was about to offer me a compliment. "We're letting you go." I didn't move. I could feel my pulse in my throat, but I kept my face neutral. "I'm sorry," I said. "You're not a team player." He said it like it was a simple fact, like he was telling me the sky was blue or that Monday followed Sunday. "We need people who are committed, who go the extra mile. You've made it clear that's not you." There it was. The extra mile. That phrase had been his weapon for 3 years. 3 years of staying until 9, 10, sometimes midnight. 3 years of answering emails at 11 on a Friday because Derek said the client needed it by morning. 3 years of skipping my lunch breaks to hit deadlines that were only impossible because he scheduled them that way. And when I finally asked for compensation, when I sent an email asking about overtime pay, suddenly I wasn't a team player. I looked at the box again. Everything in it was mine. He'd packed it himself, carefully, deliberately. That wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. That was planning. Was this premeditated? I asked. Derek laughed. "We made the decision Friday afternoon. HR wanted to do it properly, but I told them you'd want to clean out your desk yourself. I saved you the trouble." He thinks he's being generous, I thought. He thinks this is kindness. Security will walk you out, he said. Standard procedure. I stood up. My chair rolled back a few inches and hit the filing cabinet behind me. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I thought I'd be shaking. Derek held out the box. He wanted me to take it from him, to make me reach for the remnants of my professional life like a dog taking a scrap. "I didn't take it. You're going to want to say goodbye to Sarah before you go," he said, pulling the box back slightly. "But make it quick. We have a stand-up at 9. A stand-up. He was firing me at 8 in the morning and still expected to run his 9 o'clock meeting like nothing happened. Like I never happened. "Maya, take the box," he said, his voice losing its friendly edge. "You know what I worked for this company, Derek. You know what I gave it. I know you couldn't handle the workload," he said. "That's why we had to let you go. You were burning out." "We saw it. We did you a favor." I looked at his eyes when he said that. He didn't blink. He was good. He was very, very good at this. "I have copies," I said quietly. Derek's smile flickered. Just barely, a twitch at the corner of his mouth. "Copies of what?" I didn't answer. I just picked up the box. It was lighter than I expected. 3 years of my life fit in a cardboard box nobody paid extra for. "Security will meet you at the elevator," Derek said, recovering his composure. "Good luck, Maya. I hope you find a place that's a better fit." I walked past him. I could feel his eyes on my back. I stopped at the elevator and pressed the button. Then I turned around. If the story I just told moved you, I'd be honored if you subscribed to Revenger. There are more where this came from. "Derek," I said. He looked up from his phone. He'd already forgotten about me. I was already gone in his mind. I smiled at him. A genuine smile. Genuinely genuine. "Oh, sweetheart," I said. "We haven't even started. The elevator doors opened. I stepped in and pressed the button for the lobby. As the door slid shut, I saw him, standing there, phone in hand, mouth slightly open. He thought he'd won. He thought firing me solved his problem. I had my messenger bag on my shoulder. He knew I always carried it. He never asked what was in it. In that bag was a folder. A simple manila folder with a rubber band around it. A folder of every email he ever sent me. Every demand for overtime, every threat about my job, every promise of compensation that never came. He had no idea that I'd saved everything since my first week at Brightline, that I was a meticulous person who kept records out of habit, not suspicion. The elevator reached the lobby. I walked past the security desk without saying a word. I stepped out into the Austin morning. The sun was already hot, even though it was barely March. I kept walking, holding my box, thinking about the folder in my bag. I didn't have a plan yet, but I did have documentation. I had dates and times and proof. I had his own words, signed and sent and archived. Derek thought I was done. He thought I would disappear into the morning and never look back. He didn't know me at all. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. For 3 years I'd woken up to the sound of my alarm at 6:30, the coffee maker gurgling, the bus schedule humming in my head. Now there was nothing, just the hum of the refrigerator and the weight of a Tuesday morning with nowhere to go. I set the cardboard box on my kitchen table. My grandmother's photo, the mug with the chipped handle. The ceramic frog Sarah gave me for my 3rd anniversary at Brightline. I remembered her exact words, because frogs are for good luck, and you'll need it working for him. I didn't cry. I sat down, pulled out my messenger bag, and opened the manila folder. The rubber band snapped as I slid it off. I'd kept every email Derek ever sent me. Every single one, from my first week in 2016 to my last day. At first, I didn't know what I was looking for. I just started reading. Old messages about campaign deadlines, meeting notes, praise, sprinkled in like seasoning. Then I found the first one, dated February 14, 2017. Subject line, Weekend Push. Maya, we need the Henderson launch board ready by Monday. I know you have plans, but this is how we prove commitment. I'll make it up to you. I hadn't made plans. He didn't care if I did, and he never made it up to me. I kept reading. March, April. The emails got more specific. 10 hours extra this week. The client needs a 3rd version by Thursday. Everyone else has already said yes. Everyone else had said no, actually. Sarah had told me that much. She'd started saying no months before I did, and I'd watched her get passed over for a promotion because of it. Then came the threats. I found the one from September 2018. Subject line, performance review. I need to see flexibility from you, Maya. If you're not willing to go above and beyond, I have to reconsider your role on the team. I'm sure you understand. I understood. I understood exactly what he was saying. Do the work without pay or lose your job. The anger came slow. It crept up my spine like a cold draft. Because I realized something. I'd been so careful to document his demands. But I'd never checked whether they matched my actual hours. I pulled my timesheets from the company portal. I'd downloaded them every month. Old habit. A digital trail of every hour I'd logged. That's when I saw the edits. My original entry showed my true start and end times. But someone had adjusted them. Late nights became early evenings. Weekend work disappeared entirely. The word overtime didn't appear once. Derek hadn't just exploited me. He'd erased the evidence of the exploitation. I put the folder down. I took a breath. Then I counted. Those 16 months of altered timesheets. The extra hours I'd worked, the weekends, the late nights. I did the math on a napkin. $18,000. Roughly. Maybe more. Okay, I said out loud. To nobody. To myself. Okay. That's when my phone rang. Sarah, Maya, she said. Are you okay? I'm fine. Don't lie to me. I heard her inhale. A long pause. Then she said the words I wasn't expecting. He's telling everyone you were lazy. Derek. He said they had to let you go because you couldn't keep up. That you'd been phoning it in for months. The ceramic frog sat on my kitchen table. Its little gold eyes stared at me. Sarah, I said, did you know he's been adjusting timesheets? Silence. 2 beats. 3. I suspected, she said. But I never proved it. I just proved it. I have the downloads, the originals and the altered versions. He's already picking his next target. He told the team he trimmed the fat. His words, Maya. He said he trimmed the fat. I looked at my grandmother's photo. She'd been a bookkeeper for 40 years. She used to tell me, dates and dollars don't lie, Maya. People do. Always trust the dates and dollars. I need to think, I said. Take your time. I hung up. I opened my laptop. I made a new folder and named it with a date. March 5, 2019. Then I started moving files. Emails, timesheets, screenshots. Each one named clearly. Each one dated. Derek thought I was gone. He thought I was a problem he'd solved. He thought he'd trimmed the fat. I hadn't stopped being angry yet, but I was getting clear. And underneath that clarity, I made a promise to myself and to the woman in that photo. He had no idea what I was about to build. I spent 6 months sending out resumes from my kitchen table, the same table where I'd built my evidence folder. I watched my savings account drain like a sink with a slow leak, and I watched Derek's name keep popping up in industry newsletters, winning this, being shortlisted for that. Each time I saw his face, I closed the tab. I wasn't ready yet. I was just collecting. Then, in September, I got a call from a recruiter named Dana. She had a voice like gravel, and she got straight to the point. She told me about a senior creative role at a firm called Apex Creative. They were smaller than Brightline, scrappier. They'd been poaching talent from the big shops for 2 years, and their work was sharp, current, the kind that won accounts, not just awards. The salary was $95,000. I remember doing the math on that number. The interview was September 12th, a Thursday. I wore my grandmother's pearl earrings, the one she wore to her own retirement dinner after 40 years at the ledger books. I met the founder, a woman named Priya, and her partner, a quiet man named Marcus. They didn't ask me about my time at Brightline until the end of the meeting. I gave them a version of the truth. I said the culture hadn't fit me anymore. That was true enough. I didn't mention Derek. I didn't need to. They offered me the job the next morning. I started at Apex on October 1st. The office was 2 floors above a coffee shop on East Cesar Chavez. I had a desk by the window with actual sunlight, and my first project was a rebrand for a local brewery. It was good work. It was honest work. For a month, I almost forgot the folder in my laptop. Almost. Sarah called me on March 20th that next year. Not to catch up. She called because she was furious, and Sarah didn't get furious often. She said Derek was pitching the Fresh Start campaign, the one I designed in 2018. The one I'd spent 2 weeks refining, working past midnight, eating cold takeout at my desk. He was pitching it to a national retail chain called Mart Corp. The pitch was scheduled for April 2nd. I put the phone down and opened my evidence folder. I searched for the original files from that project. There they were, all of them, with my timestamps. March 21st, 10:15 at night. March 22nd, 12:40 in the morning. March 23rd, 2 in the morning. The files created while Derek was at home, asleep, using my hours to pad his metrics. Then I did a search I'd never done before. I searched for Fresh Start and Creative Excellence Award. The results took me a second to process. Derek had submitted the campaign under his name. He won. He got a bonus of $25,000 for work he never touched. There was a photo from the award banquet. Derek in a rented tux, holding a glass trophy, smiling like he'd come up with every line himself. I stared at that photo for a long time. I thought about my grandmother, the way she wrote every calendar appointment in blue ink, never pencil, because pencil could be erased. Derek used a different kind of eraser. He used my time. I closed my laptop. I had 2 weeks before the pitch. I started planning how to be in that room. The pitch was April 2nd. I had 8 days to get in that room. I knew Tom Whitfield's name from the industry press. He was the client executive at MarkCorp, the one who signed off on creative. I also knew his email address because Derek copied him on everything. Even the boring emails. Even the emails where Derek took credit for my thinking. I sat at my kitchen table on March 25th. I opened a fresh email draft. No signature. No name. Just a subject line that made me pause. A fresh start. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I had one shot at this. If Tom ignored it, the pitch happened, and Derek won. If Tom flagged it to Brightline, Derek would trace it back to me. And I wasn't ready for that. I typed slow. Mr. Whitfield, the campaign being pitched to you on April 2nd was created in March of 2018. The person who will present it did not create it. Ask to see the original files. Ask for the timestamps. The real designer worked nights. The real designer worked weekends. The real designer was never paid for any of it. I have nothing to gain from this. I just believe you should know what you're buying. I read it twice. Then I deleted the last sentence. Clients deserve to know who makes their work, I wrote instead. Ask for the files. I clicked send from a burner email address, one I created 30 minutes earlier. Then I waited. 90 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Dana, the recruiter who'd placed me at Apex Creative. Her voice was gravelly, like she smoked a pack every morning. Hey, quick one. MarkCorp's team called Priya directly. They're asking for a consultant to sit in on a pitch next Thursday. Some kind of second opinion thing. Priya wants you to go. My heart didn't even race. That was the strange part. I felt calm. Dead calm. Happy too, I said. What's the brief? Beats me. They just said they want fresh eyes. You'll get the details tomorrow. I thanked her and hung up. I sat there in my apartment, my kitchen table still covered in sticky notes and printed emails. The legal pad in front of me had Tom Whitfield's name written in blue ink. No pencil. Never pencil. The next morning, an email landed in my Apex inbox. From a MarkCorp address. From Tom Whitfield himself. Hi. We value Apex's perspective on the retail space. We have a finalist pitch with an existing agency on April 2nd at our headquarters. We'd like a senior creative to observe and offer thoughts. It will be quick. Lunch is on us. Quick. He had no idea. I spent the next week building the presentation. Not a pitch, a presentation. Because I wasn't selling anything. I was showing receipts. I pulled my original files. The Fresh Start campaign, all of it, the concepts I'd sketched on March 21st, 2018. The 3 rounds of logo options on March 22nd. The final mock-ups, finished at 2001 in the morning on March 23rd because Derek had told me the client wanted it by Monday, which meant Sunday night. Every file on my laptop had a timestamp. Every revision had a history. I built a folder called, simply, April 2. I practiced the delivery out loud, alone in my kitchen. Not the whole thing, just the opening. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm here today to talk about the creative process. That was the part I wasn't sure about, because I wasn't really here to talk about the creative process. I was here to talk about who makes the work, who owns the work, who gets paid for the work. My grandmother used to say that dates and dollars don't lie. People do. She said it to me when I was 12. Explaining why she documented everything in her bookkeeping. She said it again when I was 26, when a freelance client tried to short me on an invoice. I thought about her on the morning of April 2nd. I wore her pearl earrings, the same ones I wore to the Apex interview. I figured I needed all the armor I had. The Mart Corp headquarters was in North Austin, a glass tower that caught the March sun and threw it back like a mirror. I parked in the visitor lot at 9:40. The pitch was at 10. I walked in through the revolving doors. A security guard at the front desk checked my ID. I gave him my Apex business card. Consultant, I said, for the 10 o'clock. He looked at a clipboard, nodded, pointed to the elevators. 4th floor, conference room, A. I rode up alone. The elevator dinged. The doors opened onto a wide hallway with frosted glass walls. I saw Mart Corp staff moving between offices. I heard the low hum of a busy Tuesday morning. And then I saw him, Derek, standing at the far end of the hallway, holding his leather portfolio, laughing with a woman I didn't recognize. He hadn't seen me yet. He was too busy charming her. Too busy being the genius creative director. I stopped walking. Just for a second, I felt the folder in my hands. The weight of 3 years of printouts, the timestamps, the emails, the months of unpaid overtime, all documented and paid for by him in stolen time. He looked up. His face went pale. Every drop of color drained from his cheeks. His hand froze on his portfolio. He knew me, and he knew I had something. I walked toward him. Slow, steady, my grandmother's pearls against my collarbone. Good morning, Derek, I said. Long time. He opened his mouth. No words came out. Tom Whitfield stood at the head of the conference table, a Mart Corp logo the size of a dinner plate on the wall behind him. He had a posture that said he'd seen every pitch in the book. And Derek was already performing. Tom, this campaign is the future of retail, Derek said, clicking to the first slide. My slide. The big, fresh start word mark I'd sketched in March of 2018 at 2 in the morning on my 3rd cup of coffee. We built this from the ground up, pure instinct. Pure creativity. I watched Sarah's words echo in my head. She told me Derek had been practicing this pitch for weeks. He'd even ordered a new suit, but he hadn't written a single word of the presentation. I knew that because I'd written every word. Now, this is the hero concept, Derek said, beaming at the screen. We call it the fresh start sequence. Retail that feels like a beginning, not a transaction. I saw Tom nod, just a little. That was my cue. Interesting, I said, my voice calm and even. Because that's the title I gave this concept on March 21st, 2018. At 9:17 at night, I wrote it on the back of a pizza box because I was still at the office. Derek's smile froze on his face. I'm sorry? The timestamps are right here, I said, sliding my laptop forward on the polished table. I turned it to face Tom. Project files from my time at Brightline. The creation date on the master file is March 21st, 2018, 9:42 p.m. The logo options are from March 22nd. The final mock-ups were finished at 2:14 in the morning on March 23rd. Tom leaned in. He squinted at the screen. "Derek, what is this?" "Nothing," Derek said quickly. "Maya worked on a few early concepts. It's a collaborative industry. I provided the direction." I reached into my messenger bag and pulled out a printed email. I set it on the table, smooth and flat. "This is an email you sent me on February 14th, 2017. You told me, and I quote, that campaign with MartCorp is close. I need you to stay late and finish the deck. No overtime. Company policy is company policy." Tom picked up the paper. He read it slowly. Then he read it again. "Company policy?" Tom said, his voice low. "One of 31 similar emails I saved," I said. "Plus my original timesheets, the ones Derek altered to hide my extra hours. Can I project something?" Tom nodded. "Upload the flash drive into the room's display system." The screen switched from Derek's polished presentation to a wall of documentation. Dates, times, a month-by-month summary of my unpaid hours added up to $18,500. My own calculations, my own proof. Every hour I spent on the campaign that became Fresh Start was unpaid, I said. Every hour that made this project good was a night I didn't see my friends. And Derek took credit for all of it. Derek's face went through 5 stages in 3 seconds. Denial, confusion, anger, fear, and then denial again. "I think we should take a short break," Derek said, his voice cracking. "No," Tom said, not even looking at him. "I think we should see the rest of this." Tom straightened his tie and looked directly at Derek. "You told us you created this campaign solo. Zero help. Is that accurate?" Derek swallowed. He was a big man. He was a loud man. But in that room, surrounded by my proof, he looked smaller than he ever had. "It was a collaborative process," Derek said. "Answer the question," Tom said. "Did you create this campaign, or did Maya?" I watched the fear bloom in Derek's eyes. He knew this was just the beginning. I also knew something else, something I hadn't told him yet. Apex Creative had the bandwidth to take this project on. Priya had approved the numbers 2 days ago, and MartCorp's contract had an escape clause for ethical violations. "Tom," I said softly, "my firm can have a full-pitch team here by Thursday. Original work, fair billing, no credit stolen." Tom looked at me. Then he looked at Derek. Then he clicked a button on his phone, and his assistant appeared in the doorway. "Cancel the rest of today's meetings," Tom said. He stood up. "And have security escort Mr. Vance out of the building." "You can't," Derek stammered. "I'm the creative director of Brightline. You can't just—" "The contract is terminated," Tom said. "Effective immediately. You'll get an official letter before noon." I stood too. I closed my laptop. I put the flash drive back in my bag. Derek stood frozen, his hands at his sides, watching the two of us as if waiting for the joke to be over. No one laughed. The security guard appeared at the door, young and patient. Derek walked toward it, then turned one last time to me. "You'll pay for this," he said. I looked straight into his eyes and smiled the calmest smile I had. "When are you going to start paying what you owe?" I asked. He had no answer. Tom shook my hand at the elevator. "Send me your pitch team," he said. "I want to see what real creators can do." Derek rode the elevator down in silence. I watched the digital floor counter drop from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. I never saw him walk out. News travels fast in Austin's marketing world. By noon, 2 other clients had called their account managers. By 4, I counted 7 mentions of Derek's name in a single group chat. And that night, I got a voicemail from Robert Harrison. His voice was tense. "Maya, I need to understand what happened today." I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by my grandmother's pearl earrings in a small dish, and I listened to the whole message. Then I deleted it. I would answer his call. On my own timeline, the Austin Convention Center sparkled that night. 3 chandeliers, a stage draped in black velvet, and the entire marketing world of Texas in cocktail attire. I wore my grandmother's pearl earrings again. They felt like armor. I had a seat in the middle of the ballroom. Not close enough to be obvious, not far enough to miss anything. Sarah sat beside me, clutching a glass of champagne she barely touched. She squeezed my hand when the lights dimmed. On stage, the host was reading the nominees for Creative Excellence. The campaign behind the branding for a national retail chain had won Best in category. The campaign I designed at 2 in the morning. The campaign I poured 18 months of my life into. Derek Vance walked up those steps like he owned the building. His suit was expensive. His smile was practiced. His hands held the Crystal Award like it had always belonged to him. I let him get through the first 3 sentences of his acceptance speech. "None of this would have been possible without the incredible support of my team," he said. The crowd applauded. I stood up. The microphone in my hand was a small black clip-on linked to the portable speaker in Sarah's bag. It had been tested 4 times that afternoon. "If I could interrupt," I said. My voice echoed off the chandeliers. Every head turned. Derek squinted into the lights. His face went through 3 stages in 4 seconds. Confusion, recognition, fear. The fear was new. I'd never seen it on him before. "I have something to share," I said. "A recording." I pressed play on my phone. Derek's voice filled the ballroom. It was from a private meeting in 2018. A meeting I had recorded because my grandmother taught me that trust is earned, not assumed. "Look, Maya, I need you to understand something," his voice said. "I don't actually know how to do the work you do." "That's fine. You do it. I present it. We both win. The title doesn't mean I can draw a better line than you." Silence. Total silence. I heard a champagne glass shatter somewhere in the back. I clicked the remote in my pocket. The screen behind the stage flashed to life, replacing the elegant Brightline logo with something else. Something true. My original sketches from March 21st, 2018. The word mark I drew at 2 a.m. Logo options stamped with my file names and timestamps. The master file created at 9:42 p.m. on March 21st. The final mock-ups finished at 2014 a.m. on March 23rd. Derek's eyes went wide. He turned to the screen. He turned back to the crowd. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "It gets better," I said. I clicked again. A wall of emails filled the screen. Every demand for unpaid overtime. Every threat about my job. Every promise of compensation that never arrived. The one from February 14th, 2017. The one from September 2018, where he told me to prioritize the company over my health or start looking elsewhere. "This is the man you're applauding," I said. "This is the creative director who submitted my work under his name. This is the leader who got a $25,000 bonus for a piece of work he never touched." Derek found his voice. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. "Is it?" I said. "Because I've got 32 other emails and a timesheet history that proves exactly what happened." Robert Harrison was standing in the front row. His face was gray. Next to him, his wife had her hand over her mouth. Then I heard the murmur. It built like a wave. Tom Whitfield had texted me 40 minutes earlier from his seat near the stage. He simply said, "I'm here, go." Derek tried to speak again. He started with, "We should have a conversation about this." It was the last useful thing he ever said on a stage. 2 security guards appeared from the left wing. Big men with earpieces. They moved like they'd been waiting for the signal, because they had been. Another person in the crowd must have called them, someone who knew what was coming. Derek clutched the award against his chest like a shield. "I need a minute," he said. They gave him none. One guard took his arm. The other took the award out of his hands and set it on the podium. Derek looked at me as they led him down the steps. 20 feet wide, 30 feet long, every eye in the building watching him walk. Pure hatred in his eyes. I simply smiled. And I raised my champagne glass, the one I hadn't touched all night, and I made sure he saw it. The doors closed behind him. The silence lasted 8 full seconds. Then Robert Harrison started clapping. Slow, deliberate applause. Hesitant at first, growing until my name was being whispered across the room. The host's voice over the speakers, shaken and crackling, said the award was being rescinded. I didn't feel triumph. I felt something quieter. I felt the lines of my work, the hours of my life, finally standing in their own light. The offer came on a Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. A thick envelope from Brightline's legal team delivered to my apartment. Inside was a settlement agreement for $60,000. Wrongful termination. They wanted me to sign away my right to sue, and they wanted it quiet. I didn't sign right away. Instead, I called Elena Rodriguez, the labor rights attorney who'd been helping me since the gala. She told me not to touch the pen until the labor board finished their investigation. So I waited 2 more weeks, and on November 30th, she called me with the findings. The State Labor Board had audited Brightline's payroll records from 2016 through 2019. What they found made my hands shake. Over $200,000 in unpaid overtime across 31 employees. Not just me, everyone. Junior designers, copywriters, account managers. Derek had been running the same game on all of us. I was just the one who kept receipts. Elena read me the breakdown. My share came to $18,500, calculated from my timesheets and the emails Derek had sent demanding extra hours. The rest was spread across the team. Sarah alone was owed $6,200. I thought about my grandmother, who'd kept books for 40 years. Dates and dollars don't lie, Maya. People do. Derek was fined $10,000, personally. The labor board didn't care that he was the creative director. They held him individually responsible because the emails bore his signature and his demands. He was also placed on probation for 2 years. If he pulled the same stunt anywhere else, he'd face criminal charges. Robert Harrison had no choice but to terminate Derek's contract. It happened exactly 3 weeks after the gala. HR told me later that Derek cleaned out his office on a Friday at noon. No goodbye, no box of personal effects. He simply took down the art on his wall and walked to his car. Then his name appeared in the industry newsletter under one line: Derek Vance has left Brightline Media. The settlement signed itself almost. I met Elena at her office on December 15th. I read every page, all 14 of them, and I signed with the same blue pen my grandmother used for her ledgers. The wire hit my account that afternoon, $60,000. I sat on my couch for an hour, staring at my phone screen. $60,000, more than I had in savings. More than Derek's bonus for stealing my work. More than he was fined. It felt like a number with a weight I didn't know how to hold. Sarah texted me that night. "What are you going to do with it?" I knew the answer before she asked. On January 5th, 2021, I made a donation to Workers' Rights Now, a nonprofit that helps exploited employees fight unpaid overtime and labor violations. The whole $60,000. Sarah called me crying when she saw the receipt. I told her it wasn't charity, it was a reinvestment. The next month, Priya made me a partner at Apex Creative. She didn't do it because of the gala or the labor board. She did it because I brought in MarkCorp, then 2 other accounts that had left Brightline after the news broke. She said, "Maya, you didn't just win a client. You built a door that wouldn't close. I kept doing the work. That part never changed. But now I mentor young creatives every month at a small workshop downtown. I bring my folder of printed emails. I show them the dates, the dollar amounts, the timesheets." Derek altered. "I teach them to document everything from day one, to keep their own records, to know their rights. Most of them think it won't happen to them." I used to think that too. Derek tried to start his own agency. It lasted 9 months. Clients were hesitant, and his name had a quote attached to it now. I didn't celebrate. I just didn't mourn. Somewhere along the way, I stopped needing him to fail. But I did need him to stop. I still have the ceramic frog on my desk. Sarah gave it to me for my 3rd anniversary at Brightline. It reminds me of the woman I was before I learned to say no, and the woman I became after. The folder stays in a drawer now. I don't open it often. But it's there. It's there if anyone ever needs to see what silence and documentation can do. I wear my grandmother's pearl earrings on speaking days. Dates and dollars don't lie. People do, so I trust the dates. I trust the dollars, and I trust myself to write them all down. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. If this story lived somewhere in you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight.